Great waking, people. Welcome back to the bakery. It's Pie Talk with your boy, B. Willis.
And Priscilla Z. Hey, everybody. Happy to be here.
We are going to get right into Joshua Smith and Jordan Davis's book.
Sounds good.
Keep effing going. We are on day 8.
Day 8. Yes, absolutely. So day 8 reads, professionalism involves adhering to certain standards and expectations in order to present oneself in a polished and competent manner. This can include dressing appropriately, using formal language, and adhering to strict codes of conduct. Authenticity is about being true to oneself and expressing one's personality and values in an honest and transparent way. This can involve being more casual in one's communication style, sharing personal stories or experiences, and being open about one's opinions and feelings.
Ooh.
I know, right? While there is a tension between these two qualities, it is possible to strike balance between professionalism and authenticity. Being true to oneself while still adhering to basic standards of professionalism can help individuals build trust with others and create a positive reputation. Striking a balance between professionalism and authenticity can help individuals be true to their own value and personality while still presenting themselves in a competent and polished manner. I love this.
I think when they wrote this book, they was thinking about pie.
Absolutely.
Because the whole philosophy and concept around pursuing internal evolution, this is it. I just watched the podcast, RJ Stewart, Net Builders.
Okay.
He brings on somebody, and I was scrolling through Facebook, and the first word I heard when I decided to click and tap in was be authentic.
I love it.
And that's what this person was bringing to the table on his show about businesses, because he brings different entrepreneurs to the show to talk about how to be great. And that whole concept of being authentic, being your authentic self, being true to yourself. And then what I do in real life, besides podcast life and social media, is peer work. I'm a peer counselor.
Right.
Part of the definition of being a peer counselor is the ability to share your story in a way that balances a line, because you don't want to tell war stories about your lived experience. You always want to share your story with the intent of providing hope for the current situation that you're in with the peer that you are talking with. And so this whole day 8 and 8, here we go, 8 again. You know what I mean? It's just, it brings up a lot. Like the things that we're doing.
Yeah.
Pi is now officially part of, there's 5 of us. We're like the Recovery Avengers, right? Pursuing Internal Evolutions, LLC, has been formed. And so this is something that we get to partake in, and we all individually are peers, certified peer counselors. We're in the process of becoming certified anger management specialists.
So excited.
Yeah.
This brings up a ton about what has happened to me in the past and then how I've evolved actually and done the pie work to get to where I'm at right now. So just a little backstory. I worked in the dental industry for, over 17 years. And everybody that was pro stats in the dental industry, they'll be wearing their suits and their ties. And a lot of them were male business owners. And they were all about like bigger industry style work. Well, I come from like a family of crafters and of people who keep it a little bit smaller, more boutique style. And so I always say like my occupation when I make dentures is like a cobbler. It's like somebody who makes shoes, And so it, to me, seemed more artistic. It seemed like something that was about this like beautiful piece of art that we were creating, not becoming a big, huge conglomerate manufacturer. Right. So my sister and I, we started out our business, and I didn't really want to wear suits. I didn't want to wear a tie. I just wanted to be Priscilla. And at first I was really afraid of being authentic. Now, I tried to carry myself in a professional standard. I tried to make sure that I upheld like the bar that everyone keeps to keep a fluid business happening. But I've always kind of been my wonky self. I've always had my own style. And something happened, it's probably about a year ago. But one of the doctors came up to me, and it took me a while to really bridge the gap between being authentic and being professional, and for them to see that even though I dressed a little goofy or whatever, that I still was worth it. I still knew how to conduct solid business. And I was very, very bright from the beginning. That's never been something that I've struggled with. I've always had intellect on my side. So through working with these dentists and doctors over time, I did develop trust and rapport with them, regardless of like what kind of goofy outfits I wore. Well, this dentist came up to me, and he starts explaining one of his clients, right? And he's like, "Oh man, she's so cool. This lady, like, she's wild, she's vibrant, she's an artist, like she makes all sorts of cool things. And every time she's talking about something, she would flip it into a positive. And it didn't even matter if she was like in the chair getting her teeth drilled on. She was making a joke, and she's so funny." And he's like, and she wore wild clothes, you know, and her hair was up in this really extravagant bun, and she had these big, huge glasses that were super fun. And he goes, "And she reminded me of you, Priscilla." I was like, oh, that's so funny, because even though he was like explaining something that was super weird and extraordinary, he was talking about her like she was an exceptional, really cool person, that he admired her. And then he associated that with me. And that same individual, he wears the suits, and, you know, he's super pro stats in all of his business and how he conducts himself. But he thought that that person was worth it, and that she was a neat individual in her authenticity. And he also believed that I was the same. So it's a cool gap to bridge, you know?
No, it really is, because there's, as peer counselors, they often say our prerequisite is our lived experience. But then there's trainings and there's trainings and there's trainings, because in order to deliver quality peer service that is helpful and not harmful, meaning we got to be trauma informed, we have to first dive in deep to ourselves and do the work. That's what separates us. That's what makes us better at being peers in a professional place. That's that authenticity mixed with professionalism, is the intricate training that makes you trauma informed, so that you're not saying something that will trigger or cause harm to somebody who's in a crisis and coming to you for hope and help.
Yeah. One thing that I would really love to touch base right now on, that's very, very important to think about when we're talking about trauma. Okay. So the word trauma, it truly equates to shock, just shock. So anything could be traumatic to anybody, depending on who they are and what could shock them. So one thing that I started to notice about myself is that I've dealt with a lot of like complex trauma in my lifetime. And so you can't really shock me. Like, you could say a lot to me, and it's not really going to traumatize me that much. But there are stories that I can share that can shock people. And when I share my story back in the day, when I wasn't really informed about how to share my experience, my lived experience to others, I essentially was shocking others. And I was traumatizing others by sharing like the full story of what went down, and in a way I was kind of doing it because I wanted people to join my misery, unfortunately. And I didn't even know that I was doing that. So now, those same stories, those same lived experiences, I still have that. That's never going to go away for me. But when I'm presenting the information, when I'm presenting how I incorporated recovery, how I decided to build and develop new tool sets, I'm reframing how I share my lived experience. And I'm making sure that I'm not traumatizing people in how I share those stories. And I feel more productive. I feel happier, and I feel like the people that I connect with, they're not walking away with big bug eyes because they got super shocked by things I shared. They're walking away with thought-provoking things that they can then apply to their own version of trauma and shock.
Interesting fact. something I just learned when I was doing the prerequisite video and then the quiz for becoming anger management specialist is that the thing that triggers anger inside of us physiologically lasts for 2 seconds. Anything after 2 seconds, you're making an internal decision to hold on to that anger and live in that anger and that emotion. It's a conscious choice, maybe subconscious, but physiologically, when we have an anger response to a thing, it's 2 seconds.
I love this because it kind of goes hand in hand with like addiction and recovery. Because sometimes I think you might be addicted to that anger, and you might want to even create more trauma for yourself than you really need to. Because if it's only 2 seconds, it sounds like you have a choice after that 2 seconds as to what you're going to do with it.
Well, yeah, and sometimes just being in anger has been a survival,
Mm-hmm.
mechanism for people, and it becomes a comfort zone. It becomes a place to feel safe.
Yeah.
I'm one of those.
Yeah.
Back in the day, that's where I lived. I lived in angry land, angry man.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was highly, highly just activating for me, and it brought me safety in that environment of growing up in a prison and being around people that was their currency. The currency was who's more dangerous, who's more feared, who's more, who has this more macho, aura, and how many people are perpetuating that version of that person so that they can be a certain type of way, right?
Absolutely.
So that became the way for me to be, would be to lose my mind and then stay in that lost mind phase for as long as possible. And I would ding out, and when I started really diving into psychology and self-help and studying all the different theological beliefs all across the world, I dove into Buddhism and Reiki magic. I read all different types of Eastern philosophies, Krishnamurti, and got into the Four Agreements with Don Miguel Ruiz. And just learning all these different things was really me starting the path of Pi way before I knew that I would come with this concept and bring it to the public. The pursuing eternal evolution has given me the most empowerment of all.
Absolutely. It's really, I just heard this recently, but it's really easy to stay in the commonality and the tracks that you grew up in, those trauma responses. And like you were just saying, like when you were in that system, that prison system, like it's what made you safe. It was a coping skill to create a safety net around you. And some of us, we grew up in trauma when we were growing up, and that like hardship or that tough wall and shell is something that we develop because it's a survival skill. But one thing that is a little bit more difficult, but then the benefits are even greater, is really being here in life, being present in life and looking to all these other people and resources out there to find new tracks to follow, new ways of being empowered and pursuing that internal evolution in a way of full intention, like putting all your effort into finding new ideas so that you don't have to just stay in the tracks of ick, and you can kind of get into the positivity versus the negativity.
Yeah, pour out the tea.
Yeah, absolutely.
We don't want the tea around here.
No, thank you.
Speaking of, let's get into our daily challenges.
Perfect.
Our segment called Better Than Yesterday, from these cards that were given as a gift. And now we are sharing the gifts individually every episode with you.
I always love how these cards, they just like, we never know what we're reading. So it's super funny because we're kind of in shock too sometimes. So it says, better than yesterday, happy and moisturized. Better than yesterday, 132. Exfoliate and moisturize today. A skincare routine is a healthy physical habit, but also an act of self-love. And I don't know if you guys are in the same area as us, but here in the Pac West, we got a cold front. Oh, yeah. It is freezing. And then what ends up happening is that our body is reacting. This is something we're not used to. And my skin is absolutely chapped right now.
Mine too. I don't know if you guys noticed. I've been doing like this. I feel like this area of my cheek is just super dry. Yeah, so it's like it always seems to just tie in with what we got going on. That fits
perfectly. Exfoliate and moisturize.
Exfoliate.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say it. Better than yesterday. Hey, buddy. Better than yesterday, 125.
Oh,
Play with a pet today.
I love
I was just at my
this.
little brother's. Again, shout out Dads Who Game. They just dropped a new episode. I was listening to it on the way here. But yeah, man. Kilimango, my guy. It's my brother's dog. He's
Oh,
dope.
I love
We
it.
were just playing with him last night.
I'm like, I have to do a shameless shout out, but my sister Betty, she has a human that is trapped in a dog's body, and his name is Osiris. He is the sweetest human being in the whole world. And actually, when I was facing recovery and really loving my sobriety, he knew I was on a mission, and he would constantly come up to me and give me all the love-ins. He's just the sweetest person. And then my little girl, she can be a little much sometimes, and he loves her for it. He gets so excited to play with her every time he sees her, and we call him like an emotional support dog, because
all dogs are
he
emotional
truly
support dogs.
is, man. Oh, he's the best.
Yeah. And so the last piece, it says, as we just heard, proof. Playing with a furry friend calms you
Yeah,
and centers you away from whatever is on your mind.
100%, man. He's a healer with them puppy paws.
Right?
All right. Next up, we've got our 4 agreements cards. We always love to share these. Do you want to start?
Boom. Don't take anything personally.
Oof.
Everyone lives in their own dream. All people live in their own dream, in their own mind. They are in a completely different world from the one we live in.
Oh, man. I am eating that piece of pie.
So basically, whatever they got going on, it doesn't have anything to do with you.
No. And it's
Facts.
also when you try to buck up against somebody else's dream, it doesn't make anybody feel good. It doesn't make them feel good. It doesn't make you feel good. So just stick in your own dream and
Yeah.
allow everybody else to do theirs. I've got don't make assumptions. Let your life be transformed, which is very cool. It's got a little butterfly seed on here. When you stop making assumptions, your word becomes impeccable and your life is completely transformed. Magic just happens in your life. What you need comes to you easily because spirit moves freely through you. And that is just 100% accuracy for me.
Imagine that. Be impeccable with your word.
Ah.
Express your love. Impeccability of the word can be measured by your level of self-love. Interesting. We talk about that currency.
Absolutely.
If you love yourself, you will express that love in your interactions with others. And that action will produce a like reaction. I often talk about in BFFs taking away the concept of give and take in relationships and looking at it as a give and receive. So it's a perpetuating cycle of you give love and appreciation and respect and honor, and you receive appreciation and honor and respect and love. And it continues, and all of your interactions can be that way just by starting with loving yourself.
Absolutely. And, you know, for me personally, in my head, I'm a giver. Big time. Like I can't stop it. I just, everywhere I go, I'm constantly give, 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 give. But to be very honest about myself and my internal evolution is before B taught me this, which wasn't that long ago. I always thought I was giving and that you better give me something back. And that was more of a take. I was demanding something back. And I ended up being in a lot of situations that were a lack thereof because I was giving to take. I wasn't giving to receive. And then B, and becoming BFFs, he taught this in one little session. And then after that, I had to pivot my whole mind frame every time I was interacting with somebody. And I started to just give freely. And then I also told myself that I also get to receive. I get to receive love. I get to receive gratitude. I get to receive praise, you know, things that before I wasn't really about. And I'm telling you, it has transformed my life in the smallest pivot of a mindset. And right now I am just receiving, where before that concept of take really wasn't doing me service. So
well, yeah, I learned in 12-month modified therapeutic community program about what they call thinking errors, and then there were criminal thinking errors. But one of the thinking errors was called demands. And the way that they framed it was, if you ask somebody a favor already expecting the result that you want from the ask, it is considered, in fact, a demand, and you're not making a request at all. Because if anything but yes will make you happy or create some type of friction in your mind, or you fall out with that person, then it was never a genuine ask in the first place. So just remember that. And the jewel that I have for you on that, excuse me, is when you think about asking someone a favor, first visualize all the negative answers that you could get. Make all the excuses, reasons, possibilities of why that they would say no, and accept that even before you ask.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that goes back to the 4 agreements. So you're going to be impeccable with your words and your intentions when you first approach somebody, and you're not going to make any assumptions on what you're going to get back from them. And because of that, I think you're setting yourself up for a lot more success than the actual failure of demanding things that you might not get.
Yeah, and the third one, you won't take anything personally if they do say no. And lastly is your card.
Which is that you should definitely always do your best and honor yourself, which would then fill your own cup. Honor the man or woman that you are. Take the risk to express your dream. Taking actions is all about living fully and expressing what you are. I gotta be selfish on this one, and selfish in the positive way, but this is my dream. Being here at this table, having this podcast, like having the ability to touch people every day in ways I will never comprehend. Things that when I filter it into the world, it just vibrates that currency like a river that could then go into the ocean. And I'm never going to be able to take my drops of water back that I put in. And I like that. I love that. I love gifting my currency in this way that it's mystical and magical. And now if I wasn't honoring myself, which I haven't in the past, and I wasn't being the woman that I truly am, I wouldn't be at this table and I wouldn't be living my dreams. So I'm super stoked to honor myself.
All right. With that being said, we hope that you've enjoyed the pie that we've baked for you in this episode 9. Right?
Yep, absolutely.
Episode 9. Make sure you catch up before we get too far in. And also, slices of pie will drop every single day. 2 or 3 minute little clips of just positive affirmations, thoughts of the days. And we hope you guys enjoy. Catch us next time. We hope to have Joshua Smith on the next episode.
Super exciting. Take care, everybody. We appreciate you.